look at the current situation in the country today, parts of Kenya have been affected by drought. We're talking about Marsabit, Turkana and Baringo counties and others as well. And this is not the first time this is happening. In January of 2014, the government of Kenya declared an impending drought with an estimated 1.6 million people affected after a poor performance of the long rains between March and I think May of 2014. In the arid and semi-arid zones, the drought situation also continued to affect both pastoral and marginal agriculture livelihood zones. Now, the 2nd of February is going to be World Wetlands Day. And one way we are looking at this is whether or not we can use the current wetlands that we have, conserve them so they can help in disaster risk reduction. And joining us now to help us understand more about the importance of wetlands in helping us avert situations like drought, we are joined by the Principal Secretary, State Department Environment here in Kenya, and that is Charles Sunkuli, rather. I beg your pardon. Thank you so much for joining us. It's such an honor to have you join us in studio. We're having about 2 million people in the country affected by drought, but we don't seem to understand where this is coming from. How important are wetlands for us in the country today in helping us avert such situations?
First of all, thank you for inviting me to the studio.
Yes.
To explain to the country the importance of wetlands in situations like drought, as we are experiencing now in Kenya and in the East African region.
Right.
Wetlands play a very critical role because, first of all, they are sources of water. They are also areas of biodiversity which influence the climate, so that you're able to see that some of those areas which have conserved their wetlands have higher rainfall pattern than other areas. What we're seeing now is that there is a serious degradation of the wetlands.
Yeah.
Most communities are draining the wetlands for agricultural purposes. A lot of wetlands that exist are also being polluted.
Yeah.
So we are in a dangerous trend in terms of wetland conservation. And without wetlands, as a country, we cannot grow food. These wetlands play a very critical role.
All right. So you say that the wetlands as well help us conserve water, but it seems that maybe now we have little awareness about the importance of wetlands and the role that they play in averting some of the skirmishes, let's say, of global warming and climate change. But how do we put this into context for, say, the farmer in Marsabit to understand, or maybe the farmers in counties like Baringo and Turkana to understand the simplicity and the importance of conserving wetlands?
One of the challenges we have, and I agree with you, is awareness creation. We have awareness gap in the country on the importance of wetlands. For example, in areas like Samburu, in areas like Wajir, Garissa, the Lorian Swamp, for example, was historically a dry grazing area for the pastoralist communities there. But you can see the degradation in the Abadeas, which is the source of the Wasongero River, affecting that wetland either in terms of pollution, in terms of eutrophication, and also diminishing water availability in the wetland. So it affects the entire biodiversity, make the area very dry, and that affects the livestock farmers there. And you can also see in areas like in the water towers. Kenya is a water scarce area. And the fact that it's a water scarce area obviously affects the country in terms of water demand. The wetlands act as sources of water, but the awareness gap is wide.
Right. All right. So when you say the awareness gap is wide and the fact that you admit that there is little education on the importance, say, of wetlands in the country, how are you as a ministry trying to make sure that this gap is bridged?
One of the programs that we have initiated as a ministry is within the area of the Lake Basin region of the Lake Victoria catchment, all the way to Nandi all the way to Kakamega, all the way to Kericho. What we are doing now, we have mapped out all the wetlands. We have mapped out wetlands in Kericho, we have mapped out wetlands in Nandi, and what we've done is that we have organized those communities around the wetland to make sure that they contribute towards conservation and also to delineate and map them. The biggest challenge actually is the threat of encroachment into the wetlands.
Right.
So we are trying to encourage communities to see the benefits of wetlands.
Are there any punitive measures that are being put in place? Because what we're seeing at the moment is that if we are going to go by statistics being given by the United Nations Environmental Program, as far as the effects of global warming are concerned, then I think maybe we need to have more punitive measures, especially for those who are breaking the law when it comes to, say, the environment as well. Because we have seen structures shooting up in areas that were previously wetlands or areas that were previously swamps. And I take it that maybe there must be some sort of environmental law that deals with these situations. Are there any at the moment, and what have you done about it?
Of course, the laws exist. Punitive measures are provided for in the law. But as a ministry, we are using 3 mechanisms. One, we are using awareness creation to communities. We are also using enforcement of the law as provided for in the MCA, and we are also using incentives. For example, in Sasuma Dam, which supply water to Nairobi, we have introduced ecosystem payment system, where we give incentives to communities for making sure that the wetland is not damaged. We are also revamping the legal framework, the regulatory framework of the National Environment Management Authority to be able to introduce punitive measures. And also we are in consultation with the National Land Commission, especially on the laws relating to allocation of land within the wetland areas, which is a serious, serious problem.
All right.
We are in consultation, and I'm sure we are able to get an amicable solution.
All right. Finally, when it comes to, the different situations that we are having, in 2015, we might not have had as dire a situation as we have in 2017 in as far as drought is concerned. But in 2014, we did see the same situation. Have we learned any lessons from, say, the different, alerts that we have been getting? Say 2014, we had the same alert, and much as we didn't have it in 2015, it's come back again. In fact, the meteorological department as well did warn that there was going to be some sort of dry weather conditions up until mid-2017. Do we pick lessons as Kenyans, even for a moment forgetting about what the government's responsibility is? Do you think that we have taken enough initiative to prepare for these situations?
For drought, of course, is a natural phenomena. It has a cycle. But for this particular drought, I think there have been considerable preparation on the part of the government in terms of responding to immediate needs. But of course, this is also a climate change issue, which as a ministry, we host the Climate Change Directorate. We deal with adaptation and mitigation.
Yes.
What we are doing now is to promote adaptive measures, especially smart agriculture, pasture conservation, water conservation, to be able to cope with the impact of climate change.
Right. All right, and going forward for the rest of the year that we are going to see this situation and hoping to avert it in coming days and years, what would be the 3 key steps that you would give an ordinary Kenyan in terms of conserving wetlands?
For the Kenyans, I would like to tell them this. Wetlands is our lifeline, and we must protect. Let's take deliberate measures individually and as communities to protect the wetlands. I also want to say that we are in the process of restructuring the National Environment Management Authority to introduce stricter policing of encroachment on wetlands, and also make sure that we work with the National Land Commission to educate communities on the on what they should not do on wetland, especially delineating them for agricultural purposes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Charles. We do appreciate the time taken to come speak to us about conserving wetlands, of course, the role that we can play as Kenyans, and not just leaving everything to the government as well. Charles Sunkuli is the Principal Secretary for the Environment here in Kenya, and hopefully you can join the rest of the country in marking World Wetlands Day. That's going to be on the 2nd of February 2017.